Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandra Ferdinando.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Here are your headlines for tonight.
IMF concludes fourth review on Sri Lanka. Green light given for fifth tranche to be released. Trump's tariff deadline ends on the 9th of July. Is Sri Lanka's export sector at risk? Starlink launches in Sri Lanka. Elon Musk announces. Indictments filed at the Colombo High Court against Yoshita and Desi Forest. Paddy procurement for Yalla season to start tomorrow. Government to set price for wet paddy. Charita Lanka shines against Bangladesh with vital century in Colombo.
Fifth ODI 100. It's been an outstanding one.
Starting off with the top story for tonight, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund completed the fourth review under the 48-month Extended Fund Facility arrangement. This allows Sri Lankan authorities to draw about $350 million.
The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund completed the fourth review under the 48-month Extended Fund Facility arrangement. This brings the total IMF financial support disbursed so far to about $1.74 billion. The EFF arrangement for Sri Lanka was approved by the Executive Board on the 20th March 2023 for about $3 billion. The program supports Sri Lanka's efforts to durably restore macroeconomic stability by restoring fiscal and debt sustainability while protecting the vulnerable, safeguarding price and financial sector stability, rebuilding external buffers, strengthening governance and reducing corruption vulnerabilities, and enhancing growth-oriented structural reforms.
There are several serious issues affecting certain groups. One of the key problems is that some individuals who once lived privileged and luxurious lives, often acting with superiority over others, have now lost that lifestyle. The wealth they acquired through corruption is now being taken back. They are facing legal consequences and their assets are being reclaimed. Since the beginning of our administration, these groups have been spreading hateful and misleading narratives in society. One such claim is that our agreement with the International Monetary Fund will fail and that the program will collapse. Even before the Executive Board meeting to approve the fifth tranche, they circulated false information, especially regarding electricity tariffs, claiming that we hadn't included cost-reflective pricing. These narratives created confusion and doubt, but I believe we responded to those challenges with clarity and accuracy. Today, we are seeing the results of that effort.
Minister Bimal Ratnayaka made the following comments in Batticaloa.
We believe that our participation in the IMF program has not led to any new taxes being imposed on the people. We have not cut back on free education or free healthcare. In fact, salaries have been increased. While some recommendations from the IMF may seem challenging, not all of them are harmful. Some are necessary and beneficial for the country's future. That is why we believe the IMF's involvement is part of our effort to stabilize the economy and move forward in an orderly manner. As the President has stated, this will be the last IMF program for Sri Lanka. We expect to exit the program by December 2027. Until then, we are committed to responsibly implementing the program and ensuring its success.
The temporary suspension of Trump-imposed reciprocal tariffs is set to expire on the 9th of July. US President Donald Trump had imposed a 44% tariff on Sri Lankan exports to the United States, citing it as a reciprocal measure against what the US claimed were 88% trade barriers imposed by Sri Lanka. If the US decides to reinstate this tariff rate after the suspension ends, what impact will it have on Sri Lanka? The opposition claims that Sri Lanka has not taken adequate measures to address this issue effectively.
The US President shocked the world and roiled markets on the 2nd of April, which he dubbed quote-unquote Liberation Day, when he imposed tariffs of as high as 50% on nearly every country before announcing a 90-day reduction in a stunning reversal just a week later. That pause, however, is ending on the 9th of July, and Trump said in an interview on Fox News that he does not intend to extend the deadline, although he added, quote-unquote, I could. no big deal.
All right, so July 9th is coming up. What are you going to do about the end of the pause in the tariffs?
It's so simple. We're sending letters. They're talking to all these countries. We made a deal pretty much with India. We made a deal with China. We made a deal with UK. We made deals. But I'd rather just send them a letter, a very fair letter, saying, congratulations, we're going to allow you to trade in the United States of America. You're going to pay a 25% tariff or 20% or 40 or 50%. I would rather do that. So when
we're not going to extend the pause?
I don't think I'll need to because I could. No big deal. It's like TikTok. I'm extending that, but no big deal. We have a buyer for TikTok, by the way. I think I'll need probably China approval. And I think President Xi will probably do it.
Fine.
Speaking to reporters separately, the US president said that India and US, quote-unquote, are going to have a deal amid the ongoing negotiation deadlock between the two nations.
I think we're going to have a deal with India, possibly. And that's going to be a different kind of a deal. It's going to be a deal where we're able to go in and compete. Right now, India doesn't accept anybody in. I think India is going to do that. And if they do that, we're going to have a deal for much less tariffs.
Parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya stated that the Sri Lankan government has failed to take meaningful action regarding the US tariff issue.
There
are only a few weeks left to resolve the tariff issue with the United States. The temporary suspension expires on the 9th. What has the government done so far? The president told this house that Sri Lanka and the US would jointly issue a statement. But that statement has yet to materialize. Months have passed and now only 2 or 3 weeks remain. We export goods worth approximately $3.5 billion to the US and nearly $2.94 billion of that is at risk if these tariffs are reinstated. If we fail to prevent this, the consequences will be severe. It's not just about 1 or 2 factories shutting down. If this issue isn't resolved, it will become a systemic crisis affecting industries across the board. The government has had 2.5 months to act, but they haven't communicated any plan to the country, to us or to investors. There's been no indication of a resolution or a deal.
In 2024, 23% of Sri Lanka's total exports were directed to the United States. Of that 23%, approximately 70% consisted of apparel products. The total export revenue earned from the United States amounted to $3 billion, with $2.5 billion coming from apparel alone. Given this context, if Sri Lanka fails to reach a favorable agreement with the United States, the country could face a range of serious challenges. It was previously stated that discussions were underway between Sri Lanka and the United States trade representative and that a joint statement would be issued. However, no concrete action plan has yet been announced to address this issue. Is the government truly prepared to face this challenge? The 9th of July is a pivotal day for Sri Lanka. If President Trump goes ahead with reimposing the tariff hike, Sri Lanka's export industry could face a severe crisis, one that may be difficult to avoid. But what is the government doing about it? Now, a matter for public attention.
Meanwhile, Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX, officially announced that Starlink satellite internet services are now operational in Sri Lanka. The announcement was made via a post on Musk's personal account on X, formerly known as Twitter, where he stated, Starlink now available in Sri Lanka.
Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, released the following message today on X. He stated, quote, Starlink service is now available in Sri Lanka, unquote. Elon Musk shared this announcement by quoting an official post from the Starlink account. The Starlink post read, quote, Starlink's high-speed, low-latency internet is now available in Sri Lanka, unquote.
Starlink satellite broadband sevawa sandaha
We have conducted assessments across several key areas regarding the technology and quality standards of the Starlink satellite broadband service. Following these evaluations, Starlink has now commenced operations in Sri Lanka, making their service available to local consumers starting this month. Our institution has already granted approval for the first batch of user equipment enabling the official rollout of the service. We believe this initiative will be a major step forward in advancing Sri Lanka's digital transformation and expanding internet accessibility across the country.
On the 14th August 2024, the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka issued a license to Starlink Lanka Private Limited to provide satellite-based internet services in the country. Deputy Minister of Digital Economy Eranga Weeraratne stated that Starlink has already been made available to 10 users as part of a pilot project. Starlink, a project by Elon Musk's globally renowned company SpaceX, is now operational in over 140 countries and regions. In South Asia, apart from Sri Lanka, Starlink is currently available only in Maldives and Bhutan. What is Starlink? Starlink is a global satellite internet network that delivers high-speed internet access across the world. It offers better connectivity even in remote and underserved areas, surpassing traditional service providers. Starlink uses a system of thousands of satellites to enable fast data transmission. As of now, 7,875 satellites have been deployed into orbit. Starlink transmits internet data via radio waves to satellites in orbit, which then relay the signal to users across various regions on Earth.
We believe this service will be particularly valuable for regions in Sri Lanka that currently lack reliable internet access. Starlink also presents an opportunity for both organizations and individuals who require higher capacity internet than what's currently available through local providers. With Starlink, users will be able to access services with greater bandwidth and coverage. However, it's worth noting that the cost of this service is relatively higher compared to existing internet services in the country. Still, with official access now available, individuals and institutions with specific connectivity needs can opt for this service. In the future, we expect government institutions and other entities in remote areas to benefit significantly from this technology, helping bridge the country's digital divide.
How can you subscribe to Starlink? According to the official Starlink website, monthly package costs 15,000 rupees, while the one-time equipment cost is 118,000 rupees.
The Cabinet has granted approval to establish a special presidential investigation committee to probe alleged fraud, corruption and irregularities within Sri Lankan Airlines and the airport and aviation services. This committee will operate under the chairmanship of former Auditor General Gamini Vijayasinghe. The investigation will cover transactions and activities that took place between the years 2010 and 2025 within these organizations.
ශ්‍රී ලංකන් ගුවන් සේවය පිළිබඳ ජනාධිපති විමර්ශන කමිටුවක් පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මේ වෙන විටත් ශ්‍රී ලංකන් ගුවන් සේවයේ හිටපු සභාපතිවරයෙක් අත්අඩංගුවේ ඉන්නවා. දැන් මේ අල්ලස් කොමිසමත් වෙනම විමර්ශන කරගෙන යනවා. එතකොට මේ පහුගිය කාලෙම මාධ්‍යට වාර්තාවක් ආවා මේ ශිරන්ති රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මියව අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීමක් සම්බන්ධව. එහෙම තියෙද්දි මේ ඔබතුමාලත් මේ මේ පැත්තේ විමර්ශනය ආදී තව ජනාධිපති විමර්ශන කමිටුවකුත් පත් කරලා දැන් මේ දෙපැත්තෙම හොයන්න පටන් ගන්න හදන්නේ.
ඒකටම එතුමා මේ වැලියමුණ වාර්තාව ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක ගැන ඔබතුමාලට විශ්වාසයක් නැද්ද? ඒකට අමතරවද මේක? වැලියමුණ
The Valiamuna report only covers a portion of the issues. As I've clearly stated, we expect this new committee to investigate the full scope of transactions from 2010 to 2025. The Valiamuna report does not address everything. The Criminal Investigation Department is currently investigating specific matters related to Sri Lankan Airlines and the airport aviation services. However, this newly appointed committee has a broader mandate. It will examine everything from aircraft procurement and recruitment practices to other purchases and operational decisions within these institutions. Previously, the general approach of past governments towards loss-making state enterprises was to privatize them. But that is not our position, nor is it the will of the people. We want to understand why these institutions incurred losses and identify practical solutions. That is the purpose of appointing this committee.
The budget for the upcoming year is scheduled to be presented in November.
Based on the theme of a productive economy, a production-based economy and inclusive economic development, the 2026-2030 medium-term fiscal framework and public finance strategy will align with the national policy framework titled A Prosperous Country, A Beautiful Life. The 2026 budget is expected to be formulated under this framework. The appropriation bill is scheduled to be presented during the first week of October. If the second reading does not take place, the budget speech is expected in the first week of November. If the third reading is delayed, budget debates are likely to be held in November and December.
Cabinet approval has been granted to launch a scholarship program that will allow high-performing A-level students to pursue their first degree at foreign universities. A sum of 200 million rupees has been allocated through the 2025 budget, with plans to award scholarships to 200 students over a 5-year period. Cabinet has approved the signing of a bilateral agreement that will allow Sri Lankans to work in short-term jobs in South Korea for a period of 5 to 8 months under the seasonal worker program. This will be implemented as a pilot project under the E8 visa category of the Republic of Korea. Cabinet has approved the implementation of a community-based model village project aligned with the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. Selected villages will be developed as model communities focusing on education, economy, health and sanitation, home management, social well-being, cultural and spiritual development and environmental conservation. Cabinet has approved the 5-year National Action Plan for the National Child Protection Policy. The program, themed A Safer World for Children, A Creative Future Generation, covers 10 key sectors and was developed with input from various stakeholders. Cabinet has approved the Sri Lanka Expo 2026 to be held as a national level event organised by the Sri Lanka Export Development Board. The last expo was held in 2012 and the upcoming event is scheduled to take place 14 years later in June 2026 at the Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall. Cabinet has approved the selection of consulting agencies to oversee the construction of 1,996 housing units for low-income families under Chinese aid. The housing program will be implemented in 3 packages: 575 units in Moratuwa, 108 units in Kottawa, 586 units in Dematagoda, 112 units in Maharagama and 615 units in Paliagoda.
Youthled Rajapaka, son of former President Mahindra Rajapaka and his grandmother Daisy Forrest, were formally indicted before the Colombo High Court under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act.
The case was taken up before High Court Judge Pradeep Aberatna. Following the reading of the indictments, the judge ordered that both defendants be released on bail, each on surety bonds of 1 million rupees each. The court also instructed that their fingerprints be recorded as part of the legal process. Representing the Attorney General's Department, State Counsel Oswald Pereira informed the court that a related case is scheduled to be heard on the 11th of July before the same court. He noted that the documentation in both cases is similar and requested the defence to notify the court if any discrepancies are found. President's counsel Sampath Mendis and Anil Silva, appearing for the defence, assured the court that they would examine the documents and inform the court of any issues. After reviewing the submissions, the judge scheduled the next hearing for the 4th of August. The charges allege that between the 31st of March 2009 and the 12th of December 2013, the accused deposited over 59 million rupees into 3 private bank accounts as fixed deposits. The prosecution claims that the source of these funds could not be legally verified, constituting an offence under the Money Laundering Act. The Attorney General has filed 3 separate charges against the accused in this case.
Former Minister Rajitha Senaratne has informed the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, but he is unable to appear today due to a medical condition. He was summoned to provide a statement regarding an alleged corruption incident involving the Fisheries Corporation. In more news, the Court of Appeal today decided to take up for hearing a petition requesting the disqualification of Member of Parliament Ramanathan Arjuna from his parliamentary seat.
The petition was taken up before a bench comprising Justices Mayadunne Korea and Mahen Gopallava. Chairman of the Abhinava Nivahal Peramuna, Oshala Herath, has filed the petition. Appearing for the petitioner, Attorney-at-Law Ashok Baran argued that parliamentarian Ramanathan Archana was serving as a government medical officer but was under a work suspension at the time of his election and therefore was constitutionally ineligible to be elected to parliament. The attorney further claimed that due to this background, Ramanathan Archana has no legal right to occupy a seat in parliament or cast votes. Countering the claim, Attorney-at-Law Senani Dayaratna, representing parliamentarian Archana, stated that since the parliamentarian was under suspension without salary at the time of election, he could not be considered a public servant at that moment. The case is scheduled to be taken up again on the 1st of August.
News First with the people.
The government's paddy procurement program for the Yalla season will begin tomorrow. Deputy Minister of Agriculture Namal Konnaratne said that the government has also taken steps to purchase wet paddy this year.
The Yalla season paddy harvest has already commenced in several areas. Farmers in those areas lament that the private sector is currently purchasing paddy for less than 100 rupees.
දැන් මේ මිනිස්සු වී ඉල්ලන්නේ රුපියල් 90ට 85ට 100ට ඉල්ලන්නේ හෙක්ටයාර එකක් කපන්න රුපියල් 55000යි 60000යි කොහොමද අපි මේ රුපියල් 80ට 90ට වී දෙන්නේ මේ වනාලිත් මේ ගම්මැදිලා ගොඩක් හානි කරනවා මොකද වගා බිම වුණා බැලුව පේනවා දැන් අපි ගොඩක් මාන්සියලා තමයි මේක කරන්නේ අඩුම තරමේ 120 130 විඳවත් අපිට ඉල්ලලා තමයි ඉල්ලන්නේ.
The government has announced official paddy purchasing prices. Accordingly, the government will buy a kilogram of Nadu paddy for 120 rupees, a kilogram of Samba paddy for 125 rupees and a kilogram of Kiri Samba paddy for 132 rupees. Notably, a price has also been set for wet paddy this year. Wet Nadu will be purchased for 102 rupees, wet Samba for 105 rupees and wet Kiri Samba for 112 rupees.
Paddy can be supplied by farmers to government warehouses from tomorrow onwards. Paddy is being harvested areas such as Ampara, Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu, Batiklo, Trincomalee and the northwestern province and in the southern province. Instructions have been given to open all warehouses in areas where paddy is harvested. A minimum price has been fixed for wet paddy. Do not buy paddy below that price. Do not sell below that price. A price has been fixed for standardized paddy. Do not sell paddy below that price. Do not buy paddy below that price. Instructions have been given to the Consumer Affairs Authority. We will take immediate action against those selling rice at high prices and enforce the law.
India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, has urged both nations to build a shared future of innovation anchored in digital public infrastructure and driven by the entrepreneurial spirit of youth. He was speaking at an awards night in Colombo.
Young Indians are not waiting for the future. They are building it. They are no longer job seekers. They have become job creators. Startups in India are transforming every sector, from fintech to agri-tech, from health tech to ed tech. In this journey of innovation, one of the most transformative enablers is digital public infrastructure, or DPI. DPI refers to open, inclusive digital platforms such as digital identity, payment systems, and data exchange layers that empower citizens, businesses, and governments alike. In India, the success of initiatives like Aadhaar, DPI, UPI, and DigiLocker has dramatically lowered the cost of innovation and opened the doors for thousands of startups to thrive. Sri Lanka too stands at the cusp of such a digital leap. By investing in DPI, such as interoperable digital IDs, real-time payment networks, and open data ecosystems, Sri Lanka can unlock immense value for their entrepreneurs. India and Sri Lanka have always shared a special bond of history, language, faith, and familial ties. in this digital era, let us add shared innovation to that list. Let us co-create solutions that uplift our people, empower our communities, and show the world what collaboration between neighbors can achieve. Let us build an innovation corridor where startups from Colombo to Delhi, Jaffna to Hyderabad work together, exchanging ideas, solving problems, and growing together. Tonight, we will honor the winners, but we also honor the journey. To every nominee, your courage to dream, your resilience to rebuild, and your commitment to Sri Lanka's future are commendable.
The Sri Lanka Association for Software and Services Companies, or SLASCOM, hosted the annual SLASCOM National Ingenuity Awards 2025 in Colombo. The SLASCOM National Ingenuity Awards recognized excellence across a range of industries and across a diverse range of categories.
The United Nations Population Fund and Alliance Development Trust, in collaboration with 11 civil society organizations across 12 districts, organized a one-day event to showcase youth-led work on sexual health, gender equality, and climate justice.
A one-day public event focused on youth-led climate and gender justice initiatives organized by UNFPA and ADT in collaboration with 11 civil society organizations titled Elevate 25 took place yesterday in Colombo.
This initiative represents a thoughtful and inclusive effort to rebuild human connection and social cohesion. This approach also aligns closely with Japan's global development cooperation priorities. These are not separate issues, but ones that are deeply intertwined and must be approached holistically. Dear young leaders, the issues Sri Lanka is now facing, such as reproductive rights, gender-based violence, and climate justice, are indeed tough challenges. However, you are pushing boundaries and creating meaningful spaces for change. Your creativity, courage, commitment, and bold step forward are the driving force for a more inclusive and peaceful future. Japan remains a committed partner of Sri Lanka in advancing gender equality, promoting climate action, and protecting sexual and reproductive health and rights, and for future generations.
Within this framework, the Alliance Development Trust ADT, our partners, and UNFPA seeks a horizontal social cohesion by creating opportunities for young people to participate in nation building and national development with a peace building process, from groups working to find innovative ways of generating seeds with local technologies to people working with governments to see how we can sustain and make our nation continue to be clean. And more, seeing groups working to integrate peace and social cohesion while maintaining the sexual and reproductive health and rights of young people in a world that is becoming increasingly tough to maintain these issues. This initiative did not just talk about these issues, but they have integrated efforts discussing myths and misconceptions around reproductive health, talking about economic empowerment, gender inclusion, and really developing strong citizens for the country.
The Youthled Project promotes social cohesion by addressing gender equality, climate action, and sexual and reproductive health. It was introduced in response to social tensions highlighted by the 2019 Easter attacks, which had long affected community harmony.
The inauguration ceremony of the Hindi language teaching program at the General Sir John Kothawala Defence University took place in Colombo today.
The inauguration ceremony of the Hindi language teaching program at the General Sir John Kothawala Defence University was organized in partnership with the High Commissioner of India. High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka and many other dignitaries graced the occasion. This significant initiative marks a new chapter in academic and cultural cooperation between Sri Lanka and India, aiming to enhance linguistic diversity, cross-cultural understanding and educational exchange.
The Homeopathic Medical Council lodged a complaint with the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption today.
The Homeopathic Medical Council claims that during the tenure of Kehelia Rambukwala and Sisira Jayakodi as Health Minister and Deputy Health Minister respectively, unlawful appointments were made to the position of homeopathic doctors.
The Supreme Court issued an order to hold an exam to appoint 212 doctors, but doctors have been registered illegally by charging money. Former Minister Kehelia Rambukwala, former Deputy Minister Sisira Jayakodi and Health Ministry officials are involved in this. Sisira Jayakodi has even appointed such doctors to the Medical Council as well. This is a serious violation of the law.
A leopard that had been roaming in the Gangewadiya area of Vanathavilluwa Puttalam has been safely relocated to the Vilpattu National Park by wildlife authorities.
A leopard was sighted roaming in the Gangewadiya area of Puttalam last night, causing concern among local residents. Villagers who witnessed the animal promptly alerted the Department of Wildlife Conservation. In response, a coordinated operation involving officials from the Wildlife Department, Police, Navy and veterinary teams from Anuradhapura and Nikavarattiya was launched. After considerable effort, the leopard was successfully captured earlier today.
dangerous.
A wildlife officer attempting to drive away wild elephants in Attanakadavala, Polonnaruwa has been critically injured following a wild elephant attack.
A wildlife officer who was attempting to drive away wild elephants in the Attanakadavala area in Polonnaruwa has been critically injured following a wild elephant attack. Following the attack, the officer, who suffered serious injuries, was admitted to the District General Hospital of Polonnaruwa.
US President Donald Trump has said that Israel has agreed to the necessary conditions to finalize a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. In the last 48 hours, at least 250 Palestinians have been killed, many of them while seeking aid at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution centers.
Israel has not confirmed it agreed to the conditions of a deal. A Hamas official told foreign media the group is ready and serious to reach an agreement if it ends the war. Israel's foreign minister posted on X that there is majority support in the government for a framework to release hostages, and this opportunity must not be missed. For Israel, the key component of any deal will have to be the release of most, if not all, hostages still being held in Gaza. Of the 50 or so hostages remaining in captivity, more than 20 are still thought to be alive, and their plight has been at the forefront of regular demonstrations in Israel calling for an end to war. Hamas has already indicated it would be willing to agree to a ceasefire if it led to the end of the war. But without that provision, Hamas negotiators might question the value of releasing all the hostages if the Israeli military is likely to resume bombing Gaza. The international community is also likely to lobby hard for the resumption of a full-scale UN-backed aid deliveries into Gaza. The international community is also likely to lobby hard for the resumption of full-scale UN-backed aid deliveries into Gaza. Israel launched a military campaign in Gaza after Hamas's 7th October 2023 attack on Israel, in which around 1,200 people were killed. At least 56,647 have been killed in Gaza since then, according to the territory's Hamas-run health ministry.
The first match of the ODI series between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh is currently underway at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. After opting to bat first, Sri Lanka were bundled out for 245 and a short while ago, Bangladesh were 151, loss of 9 wickets.
In the first ODI of the series between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo, Sri Lankan captain Charita Salanka won the toss and elected to bat first. Milan Ratnayaka made his ODI debut for the hosts, while Pathum Nissanka and Nishan Madhushka opened the innings. However, Sri Lanka had a shaky start with both openers dismissed cheaply. Nissanka fell for a duck and Madhushka managed just 6 runs. Kamindu Mendis also departed without scoring, leaving Sri Lanka reeling at 29 for 3. Captain Charita Salanka then led from the front, steadying the innings alongside Kusal Mendis with a crucial 60-run partnership. Kusal Mendis contributed a valuable 45 runs, which included 6 boundaries and a 6. Asalanka continued to build the innings with Janit Lianage, who added 29 runs before being dismissed. Asalanka's composed and commanding knock saw him reach his 5th ODI century, featuring 6 fours and 4 sixers. His efforts were instrumental in helping Sri Lanka post a competitive total. Bangladesh's Taskin Ahmed was the pick of the bowlers, claiming 4 wickets and playing a key role in restricting the hosts to 244 runs in 49.2 overs.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.